What is up, you guys? Steven here for Off the Shelf Movie Night to talk to you about physical media, about Blu-rays and 4Ks, and the way we like to buy and own our movies and our TV shows and display them and watch them whenever we want. If you like this kind of conversation, if you're a movie collector or you want to be, you're in the right spot. If you haven't already, give me a sub, please do so. Let's continue this conversation. And if you like what you see here, a like would really be appreciated. Helps with the algorithm, helps get the word out about what we're doing. I'm excited today because I've got my latest pickup from Blue Underground, and that is The Toolbox Murders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unbox that with you. We're going to pause the video, and I'm going to go and check it out, and then we're going to review it right here in this one video because I'm excited to revisit this movie. I love what Blue Underground is doing with their 4Ks, and it's just a cool movie. Spoiler alert, I like this movie. But we'll talk more about it after I've had a fresh watch, because I haven't seen it in a long time. So anyway, they continue their run of 4K reissues of their catalog. Blue Underground is interesting because they're not picking up any new licenses. All they're doing is going through their existing catalog, which is pretty deep, pretty big, and rescanning everything and doing new 4K presentations. So I don't know, maybe it's going to take them many years to get through the whole thing. I don't know exactly what their plan is after they've done everything in 4K, what they're going to do. It makes me sad, and I've said this before, I believe, that they're not picking up new titles because Blue Underground really gives some love to what they do. And I just really have always appreciated William Lustig, who is the owner. He's a filmmaker himself, so he understands the passion for filmmaking as well as being a film viewer and collector. So at the same time, it's very competitive now. There are a lot of boutique labels out there doing really cool stuff, so maybe that's the issue. I'm not sure. Anyway, this is my latest film, and we're going to dig into it. Let me show you the back here. In case you don't know this film, you can pause it up and see the description of the film and the bonus features there. Let's take it out of the sleeve. Now, this is a little bit more of a streamlined... I hope I don't get dinged for this, but technically that's not nudity on the cover. It's more streamlined presentation than some of their others. Some of their others have a mini discs in there. They'll have 2 or 3 discs. This one has 2. Some of them have the soundtrack. It's a shame this one doesn't have a soundtrack because this movie surprisingly has a good soundtrack. So what we get on the inside is, try and get some light on it there, is we get the Blu-ray and the 4K. And let's see, no reversible artwork. That's a shame. Because it would be nice to... It would be nice to have, different artwork for the slip versus the cover of the box. But what are you going to do? Either way, this is extensive in its extras. Most of these extras are brought over from previous releases of this film, and that's fine. So I'm going to pause right now. I'm going to go and look at this disc, and then we're going to talk about it. Okay, well, that was a lot. This movie's a lot. This movie is a grindhouse film. This is that 42nd Street style grindhouse film. I love that they have this thing because a good double feature is this movie and William Lustig's own Maniac, because they have this similar kind of vibe to them. So essentially what we have here is a slasher film before there were slasher films. This was a little bit before Friday the 13th and all of that stuff. But it's not just that. It's also a police procedural in a weird way, minus the visual flair. It's kind of like a giallo. There's a lot of killing in this, but there's also a police procedural, an investigation to find the killer, and that kind of thing. So basically the story of this movie, if you didn't read the back already, is we have a serial killer who's killing all the immoral women in this apartment building with the contents of his toolbox, whether it be a nail gun or a hammer or a drill. It's, weapons of convenience within his toolbox. And it's a very effective movie. This movie is sleazy and gritty and gross and all of those things that you would want from good grindhouse filmmaking. Now, I will tell you that the way this movie is split up is a little bit odd. It's very top heavy. It's like a bobblehead. You get introduced right at the beginning of the film to a bevy of murders, of gross murders. And then it slows down a little bit. Now, it's kind of okay that it slows down a little bit, only because there's, surprisingly, I mean, this is a lo-fi grindhouse film, but there's some pretty good performances in here. One particular character, in one specific actor in particular, carries the movie in the center. So after this bevy of murders, the first rash of murders, in the first half hour of the film, say, it becomes a police procedural at that point. Although the police procedural aspects of it, you have to look at as almost comedic, because they are wacky. They're wacky for when the movie was made, and they're definitely wacky for now. I mean, none of it feels like how things would actually happen. And in a way, that's kind of funny too. That's where it kind of reminds me in a little bit of a giallo, because sometimes the police procedural aspects of those movies also get a little goofy, but it's really entertaining. You've got a surprisingly good score. Yeah, and then just when you think the movie is kind of going to wrap up, you're going to get the reveal of the killer and all that stuff. It becomes very, very sleazy once again in the last half hour. So it's a fascinating watch in that way, but it is off balance. You have to deal with a chunk of time where it's hitting the bullet points of police procedural and doing the character development. Luckily for us, the character development is pretty entertaining. What we end up having is a pretty successful grindhouse film. I mean, the music is better than it should be. Some of the acting is better than it should be. The script is about what you would expect. It's imperfect. But the special effects, the kill effects are pretty damn good, and you end up having a pretty disgusting, twisted time. So, I mean, that's kind of what we want, right, from this kind of film. So this is highly recommended. Once again, if you really want to do a double shot of gross, of grittiness, of gratuitousness, because this is definitely gratuitous in ridiculous ways that you wouldn't be able to make a film today for better or for worse. On probably mostly for better, but it is what it is. This is again recommended. Pick it up if you like that kind of 42nd Street grindhouse film from the 70s. This is a prime, beautiful example. This 4K presentation is better than the film probably deserves, to be honest with you. It's quite stunning. Blue Underground continues their trend of doing industry-leading restorations of their own catalog of films. The colors here pop. The HDR is pretty beautiful. Specular highlights pop just like in Maniac. The shadows offer some new detail we haven't seen before in previous releases. Noise is kept to a minimum. It's there. It comes from the source. There's grain for sure. But outside of that, it's a pretty crisp presentation. And in a way, a weird way, because it's a grindhouse film, it's probably a better presentation than it should have. Because this is a seedy kind of film, and you expect it to look that way. And, it still does. Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful presentation of a seedy-looking film. So, I guess it's the absolute perfect presentation, to be honest with you. We get the original sound, we get sound mix, we also get an Atmos mix that's pretty good. The Atmos mix actually highlights the music a little bit more. We pay a little bit more attention to the score, which is surprisingly good. There's one kill where the kill is brutal as hell. It's really sick. But at the same time, we're treated to kind of a love ballad, and it makes it even more sick. It reminds me of like the kill in American Psycho, where there's the killer is all into Huey Lewis and the News. The contrast works. It just makes it even more gross. So great sound. I mean, solid industry-leading restoration of video and sound of a grindhouse horror movie from 1978. This movie was directed by Dennis Donnelly. He's featured heavily in commentary and in interviews in the featurettes. Donnelly did this movie, and then Donnelly came from TV. He had been doing TV, and he got this opportunity. and then he went right back to TV for better or for worse. As I look at his IMDb, just to kind of see, it looks like the last work that he did was a TV series called The Guilt in the late 90s. I don't know what he's doing now, but yeah, so he has his own interview segment. The cast has, the main actors have their own interview segments. One cast member, I believe, is not with us anymore, and he gets covered. There's a video essay about the film. There's 2.5, 3 hours of bonus features on this movie. It's extensive, it's in-depth, and it's really cool to hear how these cast members, the actors, talk about their experiences making the movie. One had to take a break from a soap opera to come and make this movie. One actually went into the adult industry after this movie. You hear a lot of great, interesting stuff about where are they now kinds of things. So extensive bonus features. This is a beautiful, like, I don't know, I keep bragging on it. It's an industry-leading presentation. It's gorgeous. And if you're into grindhouse cinema, I think it's a must-have. So if you take a look here, whoa, oh, hang on, I'm dropping stuff. I was just going to show you, if you could take a look here at everything that I have. Let me just add this to it now. This is my ever-growing Blue Underground collection. Now, I don't have a complete collection. I think of the 4Ks that they've put out, I'm missing one, which is actually maybe 2 movies. But I don't, as we've talked about before, I don't buy movies. I don't do complete runs of anything unless I happen to like every single movie they put out. So I don't expect to have every Blue Underground title, but they're really picking some great stuff to restore right now if you're into that retro grindhouse horror thing. And I am, as any of you who followed this for a long time would know. So again, there you go. Highly recommended. Toolbox Murders 4K from Blue Underground. Pick that one up if that's your jam, because it's a beautiful presentation. Till next we meet, pull something cool off the shelf, share it with your friends and family, and remind them why physical media is the best way to watch films and TV at home. I see you guys on the next one.